Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Harakal Kadash, double honor to the apostles and elders, great most on the rule one, and Shalom to the brothers to the Waxarian truth. Um, yeah, got this interesting, interesting situation with iCloud, where you've basically got the UK government demanding a backdoor into it. And I think this is something that came up before with WhatsApp as well, where it's meant to be end-to-end encrypted, so no one's meant to be able to access it. But it's come out that what do you call it? It's meant to be end-to-end encrypted, and then it's come out that different government agencies and whatnot wanted access to backdoors. They're saying for like national security and whatnot. But then it basically would mean that there's like any kind of so-called encryption or safety or whatever, the government can just circumvent. So if you're meant to have like this, I'll read into it a bit actually. So it's on BBC. It says UK demands access to Apple users' encrypted data. It says the UK government has demanded to be able to access encrypted data stored by Apple users in its cloud service, so in iCloud. And for a lot of people, it's going to be like every picture you've ever taken on your phone is going to be in there. So there could be private moments, all kinds of things, little videos, whatever shit you send to, like, it's even with like brothers doing videos. If you use your phone to do videos, there can be settings where those things get sent up to the cloud and saved, unless you turn it off. So with all these with all these things, basically with it being use hash used, it's more or less like a backdoor into all information that you post. And then with the UK as well, the UK over here, it's like people, what they post online, like on Facebook, on Twitter, and whatnot, those things can get people thrown in jail. So then just looking at that, it just seems like, what the fuck is going on here, kind of a thing. Because what do you call that? It's essentially opening up, what you thought was private when you made it. And I think it was what, 2018, 2019, I can't remember, ages ago now, when there was like the huge iCloud hacking where a bunch of celebrities like nudes and whatnot leaked. So those are the kinds of things that people store in there, to where it's just like, now the government's gonna have full unfettered access to it in the UK, where they can then, for in the UK, where they can then throw you in jail, for shit you were doing, in privacy, which shouldn't be a surprise, because that's kind of where you have these big overarching companies. It's like Google, like you can use Google for your email, like connected to your YouTube. It's like Google Photos and whatnot to upload like backup photos, Google Drive to back up like your files, work files or whatever, or personal files, all these kinds of things. Um, with what do you call it? Like with all these things linked, when you're going to the B system, it's basically just flattened out to where all of it can be wrapped up into one thing. And then even with, it's funny as well, because what is it, Amazon Cloud Services, that's like one of the big underlying like storage services for like websites. So like huge amounts of the internet are basically just stored on Amazon servers. And then you have like a few alternatives, but I think it's like maybe three or four big companies that host most of the websites on the internet. So it's similar with like payment services where you have Visa and MasterCard. And then if you're not, like, if Visa, MasterCard aren't fucking with you, there's very few alternatives you can kind of do. And in some countries, there's like, it might not even be reasonable to like have a functioning business without them. That's why their ability to kind of uh, restrict you taking payments, that can just destroy you. That can just end you. So was it under compulsory? Okay. Currently, only the Apple account holder can access data stored in this way. The tech giant itself cannot view it. The demand has been served by the Home Office under the Investigatory Powers Act, which compels firms to provide information to law enforcement agencies. Apple declined to comment but says on its website that it views privacy as a fundamental human right. Under the law, the demand cannot be made public. The news was first reported by the Washington Post, quoting sources familiar with the matter, and the BBC has spoken to similar contacts. The Home Office said, "We do not comment on operational matters, including, for example, confirming or denying the existence of such notices." Privacy International called it an unprecedented attack on the private data of individuals. And yeah, it's one of those where it's initially used, because I think it goes into it further down. So they'll initially use it and it'll be like, oh, there's a extreme dangerous situation or individual, and then that's used to justify, oh, we need access to it. But then once it's into law, it's like what's the one in the US, the Patriot Act, where you can suspend someone's what do you call it, rights essentially. Would you use an extreme situation? It was supposed to be temporary. Then what, it got extended to where those you essentially have like those rights don't exist in the state that people thought that they existed. That shit don't exist no more. Um, so that says what? This is a fight the UK should not have picked, says the charity's legal director, Caroline Wilson Pallow. This overreach sets a hugely damaging precedent and will embolden abusive regimes the world over. So it says backdoors. The demand applies to all content stored using what Apple calls advanced data protection. This uses something called end-to-end encryption, where only the account holder can access the data stored. Even Apple itself cannot see it. Yeah, so you have a personal encryption key, like on your account, like tied to your password and your details and whatnot. That, like, even from inside Apple, they wouldn't be able to like see or interact with. It's meant to be stored in an encrypted state, so no one can access it. Um, so it says it's an opt-in service and not all users can activate it. This is because while it makes your data more secure, it comes with a downside. It encrypts your data so heavily that it cannot be recovered if you lose access to your account. It's unknown how many people choose to use ADP. It's also unknown to note that the government notice does not mean the authorities are suddenly going to start combing through everybody's data. Well, yeah, they're not going to start doing that, but that's where it'll end up, because that's the nature of how these things happen, how they work. It will be something where it's introduced as justified, reasonable, and then it will just be expanded over time. That's always what happens. Uh, it's believed that the government would want to access this data if there were a risk to national security. Yeah, so same thing as the Patriot Act. In other words, it would be targeting an individual rather than using it for mass surveillance. Authorities would still have to follow a legal process, have a good reason, and request permission for a specific account in order to access data, just as they do now with unencrypted data. Apple has previously said it would pull encryption services like ADP from the UK market rather than comply with government demands, telling Parliament it would never build a backdoor in its products. And, whilst they say that, the reality of it is you don't even know what the fuck they're really doing behind the scenes. Uh, and then yeah, cybersecurity access agree that once such an entry point is in place, it's only a matter of time before bad actors also discover it. And yeah, that's kind of the nature of it. It's especially if they know that it's there, then they're just gonna be like, okay, yeah, fuck it, uh, access the thing. But what was it? So yeah, no big Western government's been able to do it. So in 2016, Apple resisted a court order to write software which would allow U.S. officials to access the iPhone of a gunman, though this was resolved after the FBI were able to successfully access the device. In that same year, the U.S. dropped a similar case after it was able to gain access by discovering the person's passcode. Similar cases have followed, including in 2020 when Apple refused to unlock iPhones of a man who carried out a mass shooting at a US airbase. The FBI later said they were able to gain access to the phones. So the thing with that, I'm just thinking like they're saying they were able to gain access. What the fuck does that like? Does that just mean they stumbled upon it? Like it was just, oh yeah, written down his passcode on a piece of paper, or did was it that what do you call it, that they gave the back door but then didn't say anything, didn't clarify or whatever. They might have gone through the military to do it. There's various ways they could have kind of done it, or it could have been something established from before. But I think it's like those back doors. I won't be surprised if those things exist already. You already have like it's something that with China especially is always highlighted how the all of the companies underneath the CCP need to allow a back door for the government to let them in. And I wouldn't be surprised all these big companies, whilst they're talking about privacy, blah blah blah, that they will comply, with what the government wants. And then the UK as well. The UK is like, especially when it comes to privacy, that shit's gone out the window. In the UK, you don't even have what do they call it in the US, freedom of speech, because there's hate speech laws. If that's why it's like you say certain things, you can be punished under law. You can get thrown in jail. You can get fined. You can get whatever. And they've pushed that over here way harder than they have in the States. In the States, people still resist on those things to a certain degree, but even then, it's only a matter of time, and people will be worn down. Um, Ecclesiastes 12:10, it says, "Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away." And yeah, this is the nature of dealing with Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. He, presents it as it's being done for a good. It's been, done for, to help people out, to, so that everyone's niced up. But then what, the reality of it is, what's the reality is his true nature's not changed. It's done for control. It's done for power. It's done basically to achieve those end goals, which is what, control. And that's a huge aspect of a lot of these laws being passed, a lot of these changes. That's why it's like using C19. Yeah, it basically set a new normal, as the term was used, within the laws, to where now at any point, if it's presented as extreme enough, a lockdown can happen, and people will be way less resistant to it than the first time, because it's already passed. They've already dealt with it. It's like passports, or what would it be, like driving licenses, or any kind of certification that didn't exist before, but then over time they were able to normalize it to where everyone accepted it. Those, these kinds of things happen, and the UK is a lot easier to kind of pass those things. It doesn't have that same level of rebellious kind of individualistic spirit as America with those things. Here people are more kind of like not even laid back, because it's not really laid back. It's more they're less resistant on those. They can be resistant at times, but a lot of things they'll just kind of be like, okay, let's just be prim and proper about it, and they'll let like roll over. They won't really kick up a fuss, and they kind of see some kind of something prideful in behaving in such a way. Isaiah 10:1, it says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and upright grievousness which they have prescribed." And yeah, that's essentially unrighteous decrees. That's really what's happening with with these things being passed. It's one of those, once they kind of crack open the gate to it, then it will be just accepted. Like, oh well, that's just is what it is. You'll be able to access, like in the back door, they might say, oh, okay, you're being investigated. You might not even be, you might just have been in the facility, you might have been down the road. And they're like, oh, okay, you might have been walking past and like, okay, no, you related to this. No, okay, sorry. Then they can, they can say, oh, he's a suspect. Look into the back door. Or it could even be, you liked a post on Instagram, you liked a tweet, you liked a YouTube video or something. They're like, okay, off the back of that, we're then gonna, invest, like this, it can be expanded out. And that's really how a lot of these like online systems kind of work, where all this information is tracked, all these backdoors that use the same email, same accounts, whatever, so they can try and connect it all, and then use it as, okay, so you've done X, Y, Z, okay, so we're going to you've done X, Y, Z, so because of that, we're going to then go to every other thing you've done online, and then scrutinize and whatnot. And if you don't give the passwords or unlock the phone, I think you can be held under the Error Act in the UK if you don't, like, if those police are investigating you, you don't unlock your phone. Like, you can basically be charged off that alone. So you could just be like you could be completely unrelated. You could have nothing, but it's as soon as you don't unlock it, then you're basically being charged with that. Because there was a thing, there was a YouTube video of a guy, a YouTuber. I think he said he was coming back from overseas, and then he got stopped by those police, the T's. And then, like, when he was trying to get back into the country, I can't remember exactly what it was he was doing overseas. He was doing some political shit or whatever. Like, he does like political YouTube content, whatever. So I was coming back, and then it was they said he had to unlock his phones or he'd be charged underneath it and thrown in jail. So then he was just like, he just accepted it. But he was saying there was other guys where they didn't, and it was like they basically got that on their record and whatnot. And they were just fucked. But that's like with the UK, in the UK that's how they've pushed it. Now it's in legislation. The laws have been passed. And what does it say? To turn aside the needy from judgment, to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless, is used essentially towards their goals, man, their aims, what they're looking to achieve. That's what the those laws are used for. And that's, you can see it's something they're saying is to justify, righteousness, justice. But, where's it going to be used, man? It won't be a surprise. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom. Shalom.